Last episode we won our 2/3 majority, which was massive for politics, for Swordland. Now we've got to take on the Supreme Court justices, and I want to do everything in my power to take them down. I think it's going to be a super hard task because obviously we're looking to eliminate the Supreme Court. Why would they vote for that? Do you know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. But we've got a couple of things we need to tackle first. Got a movie premiere, but this is what piqued my interest. Roomberg whistleblower arrives. A high-level agent has escaped from Roomberg and seeks refuge in Swordland. A whistleblower from Roomberg Security Bureau has escaped to Swordland through the crossing in Estord. Agent Cheselton Hailstone has promised to reveal extremely sensitive information about the development of a weapons program. We can give refuge to him and risk antagonizing Roomberg or send him back. Fuck that, we need this information. Grant asylum. Didn't even have to think about that. Swordland accepts whistleblower. Yeah, because if they're planning something big, I need to know. They're no friends of us. Why would we send them back? Whistleblower in a safe house. After receiving Agent Cheselton Hailstone, we have secretly transferred him to a safe house near Antel. The perimeter is guarded by special forces to ensure no escape or rescue attempt can be conducted by Roomberg intelligence. Right, well, let's have a look at this movie premiere. I had been invited to an exclusive preview of Alfred Kerbuck's new film, The Morning Shall Come. Although I wasn't in much of a movie-going mood, it would have been unprecedented not to attend. With its massive budget and Kerbuck's directional cachet, this drama was set to be a milestone of Swordland's burgeoning film scene. Personally though, I was just looking forward to spending some time with my family. It was a very hot and sunny day as Sergei drove us to the old capital. The film was meant to be screened in the historic cinema Anglais de Erlery, the very first cinema in Swordland. I gazed at the vast plains between Holsword and Erlery as we drove on the H1. Sergei had maxed out the air conditioning to keep the Cadillac comfortable. Frank fidgeted with his tie as he stared out the window. What's wrong, Frank? Since when do you care what's happening in my life? Oh my god, this guy. He's such a fucking melt. Can we not just disown him? You know I'll support you whether you pass or fail those exams. I've been busy lately, but I'll always have time for you. What an honour, your highness. Frank, don't talk to your father that way. He's been working so hard for this country. Don't make me angry, Frank. Frank turned his head away to look outside the window. Shouldn't be a little... What a little bit. This guy is such a little bitch. I talked to Dina. Excited for the movie, sweetie? She nodded happily. What about you, Papa? You won something, right? You should smile and keep doing your best even if you lose. I'm just fine, Dina. Everything's going to be wonderful from now on. Right, Monica? That's my girl. Thanks a lot. Now, no more politics talk. Isn't that right, Monica? Of course, let's just focus on having a nice time at the movies. Monica folded her arms. We drove on in silence. Sergei rolled down the soundproof glass between us. Sir, we're about to enter the Erlery. We'll be at the cinema in a few minutes. Thank you, Sergei. I took a brief look outside as Sergei rolled the roof soundproof glass up again. I could see the many towers of Erlery rising over what was left of the old city walls. In the distance, there were several planes flying towards the city. As they got closer to us, I saw that they were military planes that looked like Arcasian designs. They were probably headed for our new giant military base. Wasn't your vineyard around here? Monica pointed at the hills on the outskirts of the city. It's not mine, it's ours. She smiled. Sergei knocked on the glass and gestured forwards. We're at the main square of Erlery, and the historic cinema Anglais, the cinema of angels, was right in front of us. Is this the place? Yeah. It was an old Baroque-style counter building with walls that looked like marble from a distance. There were exquisite ornaments on each side of every window. Sergei pulled the cart to the entrance of the building, which was lit by vivid neon stripes in many colours. On the wall next to the entrance were the words, "Stop the oppression of bloods. Come on, let's get out." Sergei opened the doors and we exited onto the red carpet. We were just about to enter the building when a journalist managed to block the path. Mr. President, your constitutional reforms made it through the Assembly. How do you feel about the chances with the Supreme Court? I trust the justices will make the right decision. Thank you, Mr. President. And were you aware that Tarquin Sol would be present at the proceedings? Of course I was. Before she could ask anything else, the guards ushered us inside the theatre. In contrast with the cinema's Baroque-style exterior, the inside was modern and sleek, with bare walls painted in black, red and white. The film's cast and crew were already in the foyer, with glasses of champagne in their hands. This Tarquin Sol's going to be a fucking cocksucker about it, I know he is. We approached the crowd and were welcomed by the producers and the event organisers. A man walked up to us with quick steps. Alfred Kirkbrooke, oh, that's the producer. Madam, Mr. President, it's so good to see you here. He gently bowed at Monica and shook our hands. It's an honour to meet you, Mr. Alfred. Sorry, it's an honour to meet you. I'm Alfred Kirkbrooke. Honour is mine, Mr. Kirkbrooke. I'm a fan of your work. Frank snorted. I glanced at him, and he innocently took a sip of his cola. It's very humbling to know that you've been watching and enjoying my movies. If you don't mind me asking, which one was your favourite? This one may be slightly different than my previous works. Shit. Right. What movie? The Swordish Dream. I love The Swordish Dream. Oh really? Then you might enjoy this one too. I'll admit, I didn't expect you to be such a cinephile. Frank looked me in the eye and struggled not to laugh. Why don't we take our seats? It's about to start. We entered the screening room, the lights dimmed and the film began. It was a period drama set in the 1870s about a Swordish soldier who pursues a doomed romance with a widowed Bludish farmer during the conquest of Berger. I wondered briefly whether Kirkbrooke was commenting on my own treatment of the Bludish people, but then he had finished filming long before I became president. As the credits rolled, I made an early exit to use the men's room. I was washing my hands when I heard an unmistakable voice behind me. Tarquin Sol! So, what did you think? Tarquin Sol leaned on his cane. He had the same frail appearance I'd noticed at the assembly meeting, yet up close I could still sense the raw magnetism that kept him in power for 20 years. I found the plot questionable, but certainly looked spectacular. What about yourself? Sentimental pablum for the enjoyment of housewives only, and for a period piece, the script contained far too many anachronisms. Anachronisms, no idea what that even means. Totes. Indubitably. I'm surprised to see you're still around, sir. I'm not going to call him sir. No, I'll be respectful. I'm surprised to see you still around, sir. What were you doing at the assembly? My country was about to make a rash decision. I couldn't simply sit by. And are you pleased with the outcome? Sol fixed me with a piercing stare, his back straightened. Perhaps my clout with the assembly isn't what it used to be, but you may yet encounter difficulties pushing your reforms through the Supreme Court. Why do you want these reforms blocked so badly? I will not have my party and constitution tarnished by a tyrant. I'm doing this for the good of the country. I'm not even going to rise to this guy's shit. Ha! Some of his spittle landed on my cheek. You'll find out soon enough how your country repays you for your goodness. He slipped past me and out the door. Sol's security staff of mine were now clustered outside the washroom, forming a buffer against the large crowd that had gathered. That's Tarquin Sol, I heard someone scream. His guards closed around him and mine around me. By the time the chaos subsided, I was back in the car with my family and Sol was long gone. Yeah, this guy's going to do everything in his power to stop this going through, but he's going to be severely disappointed when I fuck him in the ass. Bill signed protest in Berger. After the passing of the language bill, a wave of Bludish protesters have risen and called for its revocation. Governor of Berger reported that the situation has been brought under control and the regional police force have been tasked with increasing patrol and duties around the majority of Bludish towns. Bludish students drop school in protest. Well, if you want to sabotage your own education, that's fine by me. You know what I mean? This is the type of fucking pathetic protests that happen. It's only self-depreciating. Thousands of Bludish students dropped out of their schools in protest after teachers were forbidden to use the Bludish language in teaching. A Bludish teacher who did not abide by the law was reportedly arrested by the regional police forces of Berger for teaching mathematics in Bludish. Well, if you didn't follow the law, that's what fucking happens, son. Ceremonial duty for the day of Descension. Dinner with family. And briefing on the diplomatic strategy. We'll have dinner, we'll get that out of the way. I arrived home from work, hung my jacket up and put my briefcase in the hall. I paused awaiting my usual greeting from my wife and daughter. Dina was out at one of her after-school art classes, I remembered. But where was Monica? From the living room I heard a muffled sob. I entered to find Monica sitting on the sofa, a letter in her hands and a look of despair on her face. Darling, what's wrong? Monica briefly rested her head on my shoulder, then handed me the letter. It's from the Department of Education. Frank's university exam results are in. He failed, didn't he? Just read the letter. I looked at the page. Below Frank's name and address, his score was written 435 points out of a total 1,000. Guy's a fucking joke. At the bottom of the letter, the word failed was stamped in red. All those years of effort, all those private lessons, all down the drain. You know what this means? He's going to have to join the military. He could die, Anton. Does he know the results yet? No, but he should be back from school soon. I just don't understand. Frank's a smart boy. Why would he sabotage himself like this? I heard a key turning in the front door. Frank stomped in and was about to go straight upstairs when he noticed us both in the living room. Mom, Dad, what's going on? Have a seat, Frank. He took a seat across from us and I handed him the letter. He started reading it. Oh shit. That's all you've got to say? I need a moment. He went to the kitchen sink and washed his face. A moment later he come back. I never thought this would happen, I'm so sorry. It's not the end of the world. Pretty close though, isn't it? Frank looked close to tears. Monica put her hand on his shoulder. It's gonna be okay, but you really should have studied harder, Frank. I know. I guess it's the army for me then. So it seems. Anton, isn't there anything you can do? If Alfonso could get his dimwit son into Kings Hill University, I'm sure Household State would have room for a bright boy like Frank. But he's not bright? I'm not going to take life lessons from Edward Alfonso. Household State would be amazing. A bunch of my friends are going there. I could still come home and do my laundry. Terrific. Household State it is then, though it's going to cost us a little bit extra due to the privatisation changes. Oh, that's right, yeah. Because we can go the privatisation route, can't we? But at the same time, I don't want to bail him out. This guy's gonna live his life a fucking an idiot. So what if I spend my personal wife to send him to? He's just gonna fuck that up as well. Ooh, I'm torn. I don't think Monica's gonna be best pleased. At the end of the day, you've got to learn from your mistakes. I won't influence your life. You've got to live with what you've done. I understand principles are important, but Anton, which is more important, your principles or your son's future? Ah, she's right though, isn't she? My son's future, of course. then I believe you'll make the right choice. Fine, let me think about this. Thank you, Anton. There's Halsord State, or you could study abroad. With enough money, I could get you into Harcourt in Arcasia. It's one of the best universities in the world. That sounds great, actually. Anton, I want him to stay in Swordland. Mom, I've got to get out and experience the world sometime, and in Arcasia, people might see me as something more than just the president's son. I still don't like it, but I understand. What do you think, Anton? I'm not sending him to the United Contana. Right, he's gonna stay in Halsord. I'm not prepared to spend all my fucking personal wealth sending my son to a fucking school he's gonna fail. I'll sacrifice one. I'll send him to Halsord State University. Thanks so much, Dad. I swear I won't let you down this time. Monica let out a long exhale. What a day. Who's hungry for dinner? Monica disappeared in the kitchen. Frank to his room. I went to my office and began making some phone calls. He's such a little cocksucker. Fuck, I can't even look at him anymore. He's angered me to no end. Supreme Court files Ernson vs. Sword dissent. 8-3 dissent and closed the case. Dismissed the concurrence of the Ministry of Justice, citing that the Religious Harmony Bill doesn't prevent British people practicing religion in any shape or form. Good, I'm glad that got squashed. Right, diplomatic strategy. Right, 2 seconds, let's take a drink before we start this. The doors to the White Room, like everything else in the Maroon Palace's main nerve centre, were painted in white. I took a deep breath before pushing them open. Time for yet another meeting. At least this time, it was with people who like me. The attendees rose up from their seats. Mr. President, Isif nodded, and then Lucian sat down while David remained standing. Now that you are here, let's talk about our diplomatic strategy. David cleared his throat. Mr. President, if I may, I would like to provide you with a short overview of where we are right now. Go ahead. Although we did not make a trade deal with Agnolia, we succeeded in making one with Wayland, which means we have increased our presence in the region. These deals were important pieces of leverage and significant first steps into the global arena. We must now look towards the future. Go on. David sat down, pulled out a few papers and started going through them as he kept talking. Wayland and Agnolia were practice runs. We must begin improving our relationship with greater nations. We need to evaluate our international standing, especially with the threat of Runeberg looming. Isif cleared his throat. Mr. President, you know me, I don't trust the helping hands other countries offer us, for good reason. But I also know when those helping hands are necessary, and right now we need all the help we can get. I've said over and over, but I will repeat until you get it though. Through your skull, Runeberg will come, sooner or later. And with the current state of our military, if a Runeberg invasion happens, Swordland will cease to exist. We need allies. We ought to heed General Lancier's advice, Mr. President. I trust your assessment, Isif. Thank you, Mr. President. A military perspective is important, but these deals are about more than just gaining allies. We also need to consider the benefits to our economy, such as deals we provide, especially when we are still struggling to end recession. David took a seat and brought out 2 stacks of documents. At the start of our term, I had a comprehensive trade deal plan laid out. Following the visits to Wayland and Agnolia, we were to pursue potential trade deals with 2 greater nations. Valgsland is one of them. Now Valgsland is an option because since Agnolia fucked the trade deal up with us because he was being a stubborn cunt, Valgsland wants their island. We could take it from them and give it to Valgsland, which could be a good thing to tip the scales in our favour. If we can manage to get them to the table, there is much more potential here than Wayland and Agnolia. Because they are one of the most important countries in CSP, a deal with Valgsland is a ticket to bring Swordland closer to the United Continental sphere. Dealing with countries in CSP is dangerous. A simple trade deal wouldn't cause issues unless we decide to go further. Moving on to Lesbia. Our southern neighbour is one of the wealthiest countries in the Eastern Mercopa. A trade deal with them would be very beneficial, not just for our economy, but also for our regional and international presence. Not to mention that they are in the Arcasian sphere, right? So that's my primary choice. Because we would be following through with our promise to lean westwards, his would also strengthen our voter base. Indeed, this deal could also be the first step in allying ourselves with Lesbia, or maybe even entering an ATO. A trade deal with Lesbia could open many doors for us. True, a country as influential as Lesbia could help elevate our economy. That's it for the overview. As to the actual contents of the trade deal, the investment we have made in the Angland region has yielded positive results. Lucian pulled out a small notebook and quickly flipped through the pages until he landed on the right one. Looking at my stats here, the investment helped increase the fishing output in the region. We now have a surplus, which makes an excellent resource for trade. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I need to know your decision before we can proceed. What should we do? Before you say anything, remember what I said. We need allies, not just a trade deal. If Runeberg attacks, we will fall. Begin negotiations with both Valgsland and Lesbia. Excellent news, I will begin at once. That was all I had for today. Thank you for coming. Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, I need to know everything that's on the table. I'm not limiting myself to one person, because if we do that, we might not get anywhere. Oh, look, our economies went up. It was down to 3, now it's back up to 4. Happy days. Polio cases in Berger. Polio. Are our children doomed? Rain will visit both Valgsland and Lesbia for the trade deal. Currency loses value against Arcasian Lira. Swordfish Ren has steadily been slipping against the Arcasian Lira, although the exchange rate has not yet approached an all-time low. Recession hits workers. Okay. New school completed. Excellent. 2-story building with 50 classrooms and state-of-the-art teaching equipment, the school was funded as part of the government's initiative to improve rural access to education. Wayland Trade Report. A trade deal struck with Wayland continues to bear fruit as Berger sees an upward trend in agricultural exports. Excellent. Manufacturing industries are also celebrating the decreased production costs that resulted from the uptick in importation of Wesek oil in the aftermath of the Operations Bear Trap. Good. Agricultural zones, about 15 to 20% complete. Ceremonial duty for the Day of Descension, come on then. Morning haze surrounded the city of Daya as the sun dawned on the Day of the Descension, the holiest day on the Nuriti religion. It celebrated the first message received from God by Saint Dast and his 30 disciples. As per tradition, the celebration was held inside the Ark Sanctuary of Dastrutni, closed to the public eye. This year, however, for the first time ever, it was going to be televised. That was Lucian's idea, as he saw it, granting the people a rare glimpse to the grand ceremony and showing them how seriously their president took his holy event, would ease any tensions that lingered in the region. And so we arrived at the largest cathedral in Swordland. A huge crowd gathered around our convoy as our car pulled up to the entrance. This will work out well, trust me, sir. Of course, that's only if the prayer is done completely correctly. Please don't forget the order. Right. For now, I think I should maybe take pictures of this, because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Right, I'm ready with the camera. First, you'll need to grasp the holy scepter with your left hand. Hold on. Right, let's have a look at this picture. Right, I've got it. Right. Holy scepter with your left hand, then touch the altar with your right. Kneel before the archpriest and wait for him to put the sword on your shoulder. Oh fuck, there's more. Then touch the sword with the hand you touched the altar with. Hand the scepter over to the archpriest and receive the sword before passing it on to a disciple. Right, I think we need a more fucking recon. It's so good being able to just take pictures of shit so you remember. Got it. Straightforward. Yeah, sure. Very good. You will have to go first. I will come inside later and we will meet up after your part is done. Good luck, sir. Exit the car. I exited the car and was greeted by a chorus of cheers and camera flashes. I waved to the people as I made my way to the grand gates. The Ark Sanctuary was a sight to see with its towering visage. It cast a shadow over a large portion of the city. I had to crane my neck to see the narrow spires at the top. Just standing next to it made me feel awe and dread in equal measure. As I reached the gates, I spotted my welcoming committee. The archpriest and his disciples were waiting for my arrival. At my approach, they all bowed their heads in respect. The archpriest gave me an infectious smile as he straightened back up, tall and handsome in his mid-50s. He was one of the youngest and most popular archpriests in history. Some of his more avid followers even likened him to Saint Dast. Mr. President. Oh, he doesn't have a thing. Praise God, it's a blessing to see you on our most holy day. Again, welcome, welcome. Right. Thank you, it's nice to be here in Dyer again. The crowd was still cheering loudly. The archpriest turned and raised both of his hands, and everyone immediately fell silent. O great people of Swordland, once again we have gathered here to honour the day of Descension. I am indescribably happy to be sharing this moment with you, as well as every blood and sword, old and young, tuning in on their televisions to watch this holy commemoration. Along with the leader of our great nation, I say, let the holy day begin. Stay far from evil, O sons and daughters, for evil hides itself under many guises, disguises such as blasphemy, apostasy, and even alcohol. Be good, my children, praise God, praise Swordland. He smiled beatifically at the crowd as the crowd burst into rapturous applause. After it subsided, he turned to me. Shall we move inside for your confession? Pull the archpriest aside for a photo. I pulled the archpriest aside for a photo. Many flashbulbs burnt their eyes at the same time. I heard whistles, clasps and cheers from the crowd. Most excellent. Before we went in, the archpriest looked at the crowd and pointed at one man. I turned and followed his finger with my eyes. It was a man holding a picket sign that said, "Stop the religious disharmony bill." As you can see, every man has his faults. So does every president. I take it you don't approve with the religious harmony bill? Yes, that's right, but today is not the day to discuss that. He led me through the main hall, which had a stratospheric ceiling and numerous icons sitting on the walls. We walked up a creaking spiral staircase to the top floor and finally arrived in front of the confession chamber. Right this way. He gestured towards the chair. I'll be right with you. He left the room. A minute later I heard a sound of a sliding window right next to me. He spoke with a very soft voice. Anton Rain, speak. Speak and confess now before the one God, and he may repent your sins on the most holy day of Descension. I confess that I'm not sure what I'm doing for so long is enough. I confess nothing, I haven't sinned. Any man sins, we must all come to terms with it. This is your chance to repent. Please repent, Mr. President, and you shall be free of the burden of your sins. You beg forgiveness from God. I do not beg, Archpriest. Pride is the most dangerous vice of all. Perhaps you will come to this realization at one point in your life. The sliding window closed and the Archpriest entered the confession chamber. Let's move to my quarters before the ceremony. He led me through the 1,000-year-old corridors to his office. The smell of dust and old tomes was in the air, along with the scent of burning incense. Well then, please have a seat. The wooden chair next to him looked like it might turn to dust in a single touch. I sat down gingerly. It was surprisingly sturdy. Are you ready for the ceremony? Absolutely. Very good to hear. He leaned back in his chair comfortably. I wanted to talk to you about something. I heard you decided on the new school curriculum. and decided that creationism shall no longer be taught in Sutherland schools. Needless to say, I and the rest of the church are outraged. The possibility the entire generations of school children will have their minds filled with nonsense about evolution while failing to learn one of the many tenets of neurity, it will hurt us for years to come. Religion doesn't belong in schools, just like it doesn't belong in my government's policies. Well, I was just a couple knocks were heard on the door, and a young boy came in. He bowed before the archpriest, then me, before letting us know that the ceremony was about to begin. We made our way downstairs where the ceremony was already in progress. The choir sang angelically as the archpriest took his position beside the altar. When they finished their hymn, an expectant silence fell over the room. It was time for my part. I started my walk, bowed, and approached the altar. Right. Grasp the holy scepter with your left hand and touch the altar with your right. Done. Kneel before the archpriest and wait for him. Kneel before the archpriest. The archpriest laid the sword on my shoulder. Touch the sword with the hand you touch the altar. And hand the scepter over to the archpriest. Yep. Waited for him to give me the sword. The archpriest handed me the sword before passing it on to a disciple. I got up and proceeded to my designated spot next to Lucian. He leaned over and whispered in my ear, "Compared to last year, that went surprisingly well, sir." My eyes met the archpriest's and he very slightly nodded. The ceremony went on for another hour and a half. Finally, the noon bells chimed, marking an end to the cathedral service. We left the cathedral to greet the waiting crowd. As I stepped outside, I heard everyone cheering and chanting my name. Lucian's gambit seemed to have been a success. We waved proudly for a minute or two. "See, sir, I told you it would work." We entered our cars and drove back to our suites in Dyer. Happy days. I don't know, do you think there's going to be any consequences for doing that correctly or not? I'm not sure. Dinner with Justice Isabel. Oh shit, son. So, this is going to be a pivotal point. We've got to get her on our side. Nia Morgana arranged a dinner meeting with Justice Isabel Edmonds. This evening, ahead of dinner, Nia and I met to have a talk. We settled on a table on the second floor of Le Papillon, a world-class lesbian restaurant in downtown Halsord. The whole floor was reserved for us, and the music coming from downstairs was enough to suppress our voices, even against any political eavesdropper. I still can't believe Sol came to the vote. I'm sure he also pressurised the justices of the court against your proposal right after that win. I hate to be on his side, but I don't agree with your proposal either. Nia, can you not see it's for the good of the country? You call this proposal democratic, but we know it's a power grab, Mr. President. I'm only doing this out of respect. I've organised this meeting because I'm still a part of the cabinet. Consider this a favour from my side. I'm disappointed, Miss Morgana. I thought I'd be able to change your mind. I believe my position was clear from the beginning, but anyway, let me know if there's something else. I'll be taking my leave as soon as Miss Edmonds gets here. What's also been doing? He's doing the best to organise the court against your proposal. Their weakest link here is Heron, but the rest are unbreakable. Nobody is unbreakable. You are right, but where's the breaking point? These old men have a pride as vast as Mercopa. They're not easy to break, and this is not a game, Mr. President. What about Justice Edmonds? Does she share your views? Somewhat, yes. We're not ideologically entirely aligned, but she's still someone who has a sense of justice. She's not openly protesting against the old guards, but she has told me about her concerns about them. She's certainly open to dialogue, but also sceptical. She seemed to be scared of a potential purge against the court. We can find common ground against the old guard. Having common enemies doesn't always result in an alliance, as you know. What's the atmosphere of the court? Most justices don't really talk when I'm around. They don't trust me as I'm an outside member of the court. I only know about the 2 justices I've mentioned earlier who are with me. So we have 3 votes there against you. Fucking bitch. Why is this fucking Nia being such a bitch? Listen. Having a court that can't be overruled, is that not completely against democracy? You still need 6 votes from somewhere. Isabel can potentially bring 2 or 3 votes, that's why she's your ticket, but I doubt it'll work out. The old guards are frantically opposing your proposal too. What about Heron? Miss Morgana, don't do this. Well, wait there. What about Heron? Oh, now you want to cooperate with the old guards after all. Lucian and Peter believe that he can be persuaded too. Whatever you do, I am not with you. When will Isabel be here? She looked at her watch. I guess maybe 5 minutes? The waiter approached us and bowed in respect. Did you decide on the entree, sir? We have a guest, come on, we'll wait for her to order. Of course, sir. I'll be around. Mr. President, I know it's too late, but you are making a mistake. You've sent our opportunity to change the constitution for the better right into the trash. And I can't believe that you also... Suddenly I noticed Justice Isabel Edmonds coming upstairs. She was wearing a plain dark grey dress that hid most of her features. Oh, good to see you, Miss Edmonds. Nia got up from her chair and shook Isabel's hand. Stand up for a handshake. Mr. President, good to see you. Good to see you, Justice Edmonds. She took a seat across the table. How was your day, Miss Edmonds? I would normally say good, but this time I will take the liberty to say that it was insanely exhausting. Heavy court matters again, not that I'm complaining. Oh, I know the feeling. But now that you're here, I will take my leave. I have business to take care of. Nia, you've let the side down. You should be fucking ashamed. Have a nice evening, Mr. President, Miss Edmonds. She shook her hands and left the room. Suddenly the waiter approached us. Are you ready to give the orders, sir, madam? Miss Edmonds? I'll have the salad, thank you. Oh, and of course you, sir? I'll have the salad too. Perfect. He quickly took a couple notes in his tiny notebook. I'll be back shortly. He went back downstairs, leaving us alone on the upper floor again. We want to have a cooperation with you, Miss Edmonds. That's very welcome, Mr. President. I want the same thing. She moved herself on the chair to be more comfortable. First of all, I want to congratulate you on the successful vote in the Grand National Assembly, but it pains me to say that your proposal has a very low chance of getting through the Supreme Court. And what do you think about the proposal itself? To start with, I think it's disrespectful. You are packing it as a democratic reform, yet it smells like an attack against the Supreme Court. You know it's true, Mr. President. You are aiming to destroy the court and you need us to do so. Why should I vote for a proposal that will take away my immunity as justice? Was this the promised reform, impeaching a justice with the decision of the Assembly? The same Assembly that your party controls, by the way. We both know that the old guard that dominates and obstructs the court needs to be dealt with. This law will not only apply to them but all justices, Mr. President. Who will protect our rights if you take away our immunity? So that you can create your own old guard and kick everyone out with opposing views. The judiciary must be independent, Mr. President, and the clause you removed was a prerequisite to that. He sighed. At that moment, the waiter came back from downstairs carrying plates of food. After seeing that we were in the midst of a discussion, he averted his eyes as he approached us. He quickly started to serve the food and refilled our glasses. I was very hungry. Bon appetit. The food was delicious. Tell me, Mr. President, what are your real intentions? I know that I can't do a lot, but I'm doing my best to start the changes. We need a better democracy, that's all I'm striving for. Better democracy by eliminating the justices whenever you want, by blinding the court to the Assembly to do their bidding. What did you include in your proposal, knowing that you would need our vote? Why did you include that in your proposal, knowing that you need our vote? I've had to take my chances. We need to clean up the old guard. I thought you would agree to that. I believe that respectable justices like you are against the old guard. Look, I am in opposition to them and definitely stand against their dominance, but this is not the way. But let's say the proposal goes through. What will be your next move? To ensure the new processes are respected and executed in transparency. I see. Isabel took another sip from her water and looked at me without saying anything. Miss Edmonds, please help us achieve this victory. We have to be together in this. Perhaps that is the way we must take. Can you explain me one thing? How come you think that the Supreme Court's right to vote on constitutional amendments is a major problem with such priority? The court has been stopping every constitutional change, Miss Edmonds. The court has been stopping every constitutional change, Miss Edmonds. So that is your position, I see. I don't know what to say, Mr. President. These changes are one thing, but you also lead an alarming narrative. I am concerned about your heavy pursuit of capitalism. You are bringing Arcasia's influence to Swordland. Weren't you for Alfonso's free market reforms? Why are you suddenly against this? I find the growing Arcasian influence concerning. I supported free market reforms earlier, but you can't afford to be reckless like Alfonso. She let out a sigh. Anyway, there's no point in discussing this with you at this moment. I want the old guard gone as much as you, but I am torn about the proposal. Don't be. We are together in this. This will open a way for further reforms too. Mr. President, I am also wondering, if you were in Sol's position, how would you have structured the Supreme Court? What do you even believe is its role? The court protects the Constitution. It must have the power of judicial review and to strike down laws that are against the Constitution. I actually don't know my position on this, unfortunately. It must have the power of judicial review and to strike down laws that are against the Constitution. So what do you think about the judicial review? It plays an essential role in ensuring that each branch of government recognises the limits of its own power. Precisely. I'm glad that we agree on that. Isabel wants to finish the remaining of her salad. I still have great concerns. This proposal would pave the way for WPB and the CPS to enter the Assembly. I don't want to be a supporter of that. I don't agree with their ideologies, but we must be fair. If I give you the power to impeach us today, what's going to happen tomorrow? Can you even give me any guarantees that this will not result in the destruction of the court? As I said before, it's only a safety mechanism for threats like the old guard. Anyway, at least the proposal introduces term limits. I can say that I support that point. Stay silent, let's see what she says. I waited for her to continue. I regret to say I do not see eye to eye with you, Mr. President. I don't think I can support this proposal. Look, I will be clear, whatever you think about it, you will vote yes. Very sad to hear. Is there no way to change your mind? Please reconsider, Miss Edmonds. This proposal is very important. I don't think my conclusion will differ. In fact, I think it's time that I leave. I see that we are finished with our meals too. I think it's time to conclude this meeting. Thank you for inviting me here, Mr. President. Thank you for coming. Right. She stood up and shook my hand. Isabel took her coat and walked downstairs. It was time to think about the other options if I wanted to pass this constitution. I got in the presidential Khalida and Sergei started driving me home. Right, so we're in a fucking really tough spot here. I don't think we're going to get this past the fucking Supreme Court. See, this is why the Supreme Court's bullshit. Healthcare quality has improved. Look at all the good we're doing for the country. And it's these fucking 12 people on the court that's putting a stop to everything. Absolute cocksuckers. No, it is. I'm just going to have them assassinated. Simple as that. Reach out to Justice Heron. Come on then. The vote for the Supreme Court drives near and we need to sway Justice to Heron Garsai to maximise our chance of winning the vote for the new constitution. After the initial rejection, we could bribe him, send Lucian and Nia to convince him to enter the negotiation table, or outright ignore the justice. You know what it is? Fuck it. I need to bribe this guy, but then is that going to be enough? One guy. I'm going to bribe him. Bang. It's the only thing I can do. There's nothing else that's going to get through to any of these people. I can't send Nia because she didn't believe it anyway. I don't know. Fuck it. We'll have to resort to bribery. This is getting desperate. Justice Heron. Fuck. It was yet another sunny day and I was facing another important political figure, Heron Garassi. The bribe had worked and he agreed to have a meeting with me just before the court vote. We scheduled to meet outside of Hullsword in my new vineyard in Ullery. I grabbed a drink and sat down under the shadow. Heron sat next to me in his beige checked suit and took off his white trilby. Very nice place you've got here, Mr. President. I didn't know you were a wine grower. I like the calmness here and the sight of the grapevines. You're lucky to have such a place to come and relax. He straightened himself. So, Mr. President, you went a very long way to make this meeting possible. I had to pay you the respect. Please do speak of your intentions and how I could be of assistance to you. I want you and your buddies in the court to pass these changes. Yes, not an easy thing to make happen, but I am prepared to help with that, as long as we help each other. He puffed himself up. I can help you beyond this vote. Wouldn't you want to have a Chief Justice who'd be as sympathetic to your concerns? Doesn't it sound nice? So you want to take Orso's place? Is it really that unexpected? I already have a reasonable support behind me. If Orso is dismissed from the court, I can take his place and keep helping you. We must think beyond the vote, Mr. President. If you promise me to go ahead with it, I can provide you with some evidence against him. If we pass your proposal, you can use it to impeach him. And I will support you, not only with the vote, but afterwards. Are you positive the evidence can lead to his impeachment? I thought you were the one who asked for my help, Mr. President. I gave you my offer. If you don't like it, there will be no support from my end. Easy as that. It's a deal. We're gonna do this. We're gonna have to go. This is the type of shit we have to resort to fucking pass this bill. It's unbelievable. Great to have come to an understanding. But I can now safely say that I will do my best to have your proposal pass the court, Mr. President. He put his hat back on. Looking forward to our cooperation. We shook hands and he left me alone with my thoughts. So what's that one bit? How many people am I going to get off him? Well, if we can get him impeached, but that's only if it passes. Announcement of the Supreme Court's decision. Here we go. Back at the office, I eagerly waited the decision of the This isn't going to pass. Regarding our change to the Constitution, I stood up from my chair and looked out the window. Peter was with me too. The whole process was tough on all of my team. What do you think, Anton? Do you think we'll make history today? I have a bad feeling about this. So you trust Isabel to bring the votes? No, I trust nobody. No, she told us that she'd oppose us. That's not good. Peter stared at the ceiling, but I guess the important person is Heron in this. But anyway, we'll learn about the vote soon. The session must have started already. What time is it? I looked at the tall case clock in the room. It was already 20 past 11. The court's voting session was scheduled to end in 10 minutes. We have about 10 minutes. Okay, we'll soon hear about the results then. He looked worried. Maybe you shouldn't have pushed the court so much. Taking away their immunity was a bit too aggressive. I wouldn't blame them if they vote no. I had to do it, Peter. Did you though? But anyway. He slightly rose from his slouched position and stretched out. I don't know if you noticed, but recently Casaro has been very popular in the Assembly. He gets a very large support from our party and has been reading a lot of bills, some of which already reached you. What do you make of this? I think he's a very dangerous man, Anton. We can't let him divide our party. I agree, we have to watch him closely. His party only holds 40 seats, Anton, yet he manages to pass bills. Maybe we shouldn't allow our party to be so generous with what they support. Suddenly, Livia entered the room. In her hands was a large object wrapped in straw paper. Good day to you, Mr. President. Am I interrupting anything? No, please come in. Is there a problem? The Chief Justice has sent you this. He showed me the wrapped object. What is it? I don't know, a painting? I'll just bring it to you. She walked up to the table and gave it to me. I immediately started to remove the wrapping to reveal a framed photograph. It was an old black and white photograph of Tarquin Sol, posing on a destroyed tank at the Holsword Square. The building behind him had thousands of bullet holes in it, with a clearly readable sign, "Victory is close," written on its walls. The date, 22nd of May 1929, was written in the corner with a black marker. I turned to Livia. What do you think this means, Livia? He's obviously trying to send you a message, but... Peter, hi Livia. Noticing Peter on the couch, Livia reddened slightly. She waved, which Peter returned. Mr. Vice President, I'll be leaving now. As soon as she left the room, Peter came right next to me and took a look at the photograph. Oh, a nice present. Oh, a nice present. It must be some kind of message. Victory will be close, huh? Also was getting ahead of himself. Suddenly, Lucian rushed into the room. Mr. President, the vote has been concluded. We immediately grouped up around Lucian. The constitutional changes are rejected, with 8 justices voting against the proposal. Fuck. What? No! Peter put his hands on his forehead. Damn old gods. We failed. It's not the end of the world. Yes, I guess. The damn photograph from Orso too, they're mocking us. I'll talk to the cabinet to arrange a meeting immediately. We have to plan our next steps. This failure will not reflect good on the public nor the Assembly. We will get through it. This was just a failed proposal. I really want to believe in that. All of us immediately got back to work to plan our next steps after this failure. Right. Fuck, we need to start sending assassinations. Cabinet meeting on the result of the vote. Lucian stood up straight, holding a large folder of files under his arm. He bowed in acknowledgement. He looked exhausted. The cabinet has gathered in the White Room, sir. The Vice President will be opening the session soon. We can go in whenever you're ready. I'm ready, let's go. Of course, sir. When we entered the room, Peter was speaking to the cabinet members who were already seated around the table. As soon as they noticed me, they all stood up. Gesture at their seats. Peter turned towards me. Everybody except him took their seats. And here's our president. Let Peter talk. Actually, what's on our agenda? We will be discussing our current status and planning the remainder of our term. Peter walked to his seat but didn't sit down. He took a look at the ministers. Now that Mr. President is here, we can begin the meeting. I know that some of you had your concerns about our style of governance so far. There will be a time to speak up about these in the meeting today. But I have to also thank you for your hard work so far. We are very lucky to have a team like this. All of you have been invaluable to this administration. Nia and Ciara grimaced at his remarks. Having said that, now we have reached a critical point of our term. We are nearing the end. We have worked long and hard, but we couldn't reform the Swordfish Constitution. The Supreme Court blocked us once again. Unfortunately, some people within our team also worked towards this goal. The cabinet members started looking at each other and eventually set their eyes on Nia. Look at Nia. Nia squinted at Peter and frowned. She then noticed me and immediately averted her eyes. Isabel and the other justices, lenient to her legal opinion, did not support us. He paused and looked around the room. But the past is the past. We must now look towards our future. We are investigating and analysing our faults. We will be taking measures accordingly. He glanced at both Lucian and me. Our party still remains divided. I've got something stuck in my throat. In order to look at the future, we may need to make some changes. On the other hand, the opposition is exploiting our failure to reform. The latest polls have shown a steep increase in the opposition's support. Let's start the meeting with a brief look at some reports. He fumbled with the stack of papers in front of him. Despite the recent troubles, people seem to be content about our administration. The public opinion has not changed much. He took out a piece of paper from the stack and inspected it. The biggest concern of the people is the state of our economy. We're still plagued by the recession. It's only a matter of time until the people will be hit further. This will have dire consequences on our administration. This is the time to give the best we can for this administration and for Swordsland. Peter turned to me. I'll give the word to the president now. He sat down. Alright, let's start the meeting. Everyone's eyes were focused on me. First, I want to hear brief reports from each ministry. I want to talk about the new focus and my plans forward. The state of our economy is very concerning and must be our focus to achieve quick economic development. Simon nodded in agreement. We can't get elected if we do not improve the economy. Almost everybody seemed to be in agreement with me. If there are no comments, let's move on with the meeting. Next, I want to hear brief reports from each ministry. Peter gestured at Simon as he immediately stood up. Mr. President, dear colleagues, Mr. Vice President was pretty on point with his summary of the current economic status. The recession is still our number one concern. This year we have seen a 1.8% decrease in our GDP. On the other hand, unemployment has greatly declined. We've managed to cut it from 16% to 10%. This would likely have positive effects in the near future. Stay silent. Well, I don't want to get into too much detail right now, but I have to say that the failure of our first infrastructure project was costly. Fortunately, we expect to see it finished in the next few months. But apart from that, I'll finish with an update on our latest project. The manager reported that everything is going well and very fast with the Sauna agricultural zone. Excellent. I'll keep it brief for the sake of the whole meeting and end my report on the note. Thank you, Mr. Hall. I'll also keep it brief, President. The trade deal with Wayland increased our agricultural reports from the Berger region. Our farmers are still suffering. Our ministry did its best by giving out subsidies to local farmers, but our agricultural production remains the same. Additionally, I bring good news regarding our investment. The vineyard has begun producing some wine. I've also arranged several wine tasters to sample and give ideas on how to improve quality. In a few years, the vineyard may even challenge the regional samples. It would need some further attention to reach those goals, however. That would all be from me. Thank you, Mr. Manger. Mr. President, there are currently no major problems with the Ministry of Health. We are currently investigating some reports of small polio outbreak in a village called Hamia. I believe we can get into more details in our policy meeting. Thank you, Mr. Benwall. The Ministry of Defence has very important info regarding the situation with Runeberg. The investigation shows that Runeberg was in fact weaponizing rebels against our state. We have learned that they have been aiding the Bludish rebels in Wayland too. Our military must stand ready for any possible attack coming from Runeberg. We've gathered intelligence regarding their military research and production. They are building a massive army. Our military has no means to stand against such a superior force if we do not deploy new tactics. We cannot let them threaten us like this. Make the necessary arrangements, Mr. Lancier. We'll have to use whatever we have to its limit. Of course, sir. David stood up. Mr. President, Perla and Stalport have agreed to begin a deal negotiations. We'll be moving on with that very soon. Cooperation between Wayland and Solent has increased to a new level, however, we are seeing this negative impact with Lesbia. The region is very unstable with the incidents at Roomberg, Wayland and Hageland. We must be very cautious. We can talk in more detail at our foreign policy meeting. Thank you, Mr. Whiskey. Tiara was next. Our ministry is working day and night to improve our education system and increase its accessibility. We have since built about 100 new schools and improved accessibility. We have accomplished a lot with our new curriculum. Our reforms will be greatly improving our outpost as a society. Lilia suddenly stood up. Mr. President, there is an important report from our intelligence officers. We have disrupted the radio signals of several active Bluish Freedom Front militias in Berger. It seems to be some sort of preparation going on. We might need to implement some new measures soon. We will provide you with more detailed report at a later date. One last thing. I would like to transfer the Gren de Marie under the Ministry of Interior to improve internal security efforts. I haven't heard of this before. I'm still working on the proposal and have legal backing for it. I was going to mention it later. The Ministry of Defence shouldn't be meddling with internal security affairs through Gendarmerie. We've had several incidents where they were too violent too quickly, and it stems from military officers giving reckless orders at times. If the security situations get more problematic, then this might be necessary. It will eventually cause a problem between our forces. There are already miscommunications going on. Will you transfer the Gendarmerie to the Interior in the future? I'll support you in that authority transfer. Now it's your turn. Excellent. Lilius smiled faintly. You have anything else to share, Miss Morgana? Nia shook her head. Nia, you fucking sabotaged this whole thing. Not at the moment. You are already well aware of what's going on. Thank you. I believe that's everything. Everybody packed up and left the White Room. I went back to my office. The last 2.5 years escaped us so fast. Right, lads, we've had a massive blow. Have a look at this. Whistleblower agent report. The intelligence about a secret nuclear weapons program developed in Roomberg. Our intelligence has verified the details relayed about the heavy water facility in the north of the kingdom and the ballistic missile test site. Agent will be provided security under the protection program and will be given resources to transfer further intelligence to our units. If I'm honest, I don't know where we stand. Azaran protest. Thousands of Bluish people have gathered in protest. Of course they will. Gang violence claims more lives. Local police forces are overburdened in their fight against the Coronelli crime syndicate. According to the report, over the last month, 3 policemen, 6 civilians and 11 mob members have been killed by the ongoing gang war between the Skinner cartel and the Coronelli cartel. Address to the nation speech. Right, what we'll do is, we shall call it an episode here. Supreme Court rejects constitutional changes. Despite the Grand National Assembly's approval, marking another setback for the United Solent Party, for their second attempt in changing the constitution after President Alfonso. The proposed changes to the constitution will aim to replace several of the major sections that were seen as unchangeable, in which many swords saw as Oswing its origins to the great President Tarquin Sol. This is nothing but a small setback, said Vice President Peter, in the aftermath of the Supreme Court's decision to reject the proposal. Although some observers expressed disappointment that the proposal failed, many of whom sat opposed to the proposal reacted with jubilation in public spaces across Solent on Friday night. Failed at change. Voted against President Rain's constitutional amendments, bringing an end to the discussion around a new constitution. and grant President Reign sweeping new powers. These powers would have allowed the President Reign to issue decrees on various political, social and economical issues which would have priority over statute law and not subject to judicial review. Yeah, I am fucking disappointed about that, if I'm honest. It's really fucking pissed us off. It's not even real, but it's pissed me off that the court can have such power. How can the court have so much power over this? It doesn't even make sense. Right lads, we'll call it an episode there. When we come back, we'll see if we can do anything with this constitution short of having assassins sent after the courthouse. And that's what, you know, it is in real life. If I was the president, I would have that whole Supreme Court assassinated, because they're costing this fucking country lives because of their archaic ways. They should be fucking held accountable. Okay lads, see you in the next one.